Good morning, fellow engineers. Today we are going to unlock another tool in the shop. It's a laser. It's a pretty inexpensive laser and I want to see how it can perform. How you can, for a low price point, get something in your shop or at home, whatever you do, is it a hobbyist thing or maybe even a commercial thing, for a pretty low and affordable price. So, is this thing for everyone? Can it do what most other lasers can also do with a lower wattage? We'll see. Let's unbox it. Today we are going to take a look at the Carverall K15 Pro. It's a 10 watt laser engraving and cutting device with a pretty substantial cutting and engraving area for a low price of about $300, if I'm not mistaken. Here's the real price. So yeah, it's pretty affordable. Most people could afford something like this, and we are going to see if it can hold up in regards to my needs in this wood shop. Now the first thing after unboxing is obviously taking a look at all the parts and seeing how we can assemble it. So what I can already find is an air assist and a honeycomb panel, and they also sent me a traditional rotary device such that we can also engrave things like cups, for example. What I also got is the laser module. And this right here is the main engraver. Comes in a pretty tiny package. We're going to see. Let's assemble it. By far the most important thing for me when it comes to those laser devices, especially some that are more inexpensive than others, is if they can be assembled with all the things that I have in here. So do I need extra screwdrivers or anything of that sort, or is it a standalone thing that you can kind of buy anywhere in the world without any further equipment and just get started with? This is like the thing where I measure quality at when it comes to those, let's be honest, Chinese laser engraving devices. Chinese doesn't mean that it's bad per se. It just means that it has been produced more inexpensive than other devices, and for this purpose we'll see if it can do what other devices can do for a higher price point. So that's already a pretty good start. We got all the Allen keys in here, everything that we probably need. We also got some bolts in here. And now I'm going to quiet myself and just assemble everything. I'm going to use a stopwatch here and see how long it's taken. Let's go. Well, that was quick, only around 10 minutes, but just because I made a tiny little mistake screwing this one in here first, because I had to pull this little belt right through a little slot that we had here. So that was my mistake. I didn't read into the instructions too carefully, so that's my bad. But other than that, that is really cute. I mean, as mentioned before, for a price tag of around 200 to 300 euros, depending on the one that you take. This right here has a pretty substantial engraving area, and I mean it when I say it. When I compare it to my first snap maker, okay, it was a 3 module kind of thing, but this right here has a way bigger working area. When it comes to the working area, what we are provided with is about 30 centimeters in this direction, yeah. And what we also have is about 20 centimeters in this direction, so 20 by 30 area, which is pretty good. This right here holds up for many applications. And the cool thing about those lasers which are open at the bottom is you can take stuff which is way longer actually and engrave one after another. So you have a lot of possibilities that you can work with. Other than that, what we are working with right now is a 10 watt laser module. This is on the lower side of things, but when you consider this right here is only on the price tag that I told you about, it's totally fine. For a 10-watt laser engraver, this is pretty cool. I can appreciate that. What I really like about this one is kind of like with the X-Tool one. On the X-Tool lasers, what you get is a little flap that you can flap down, or the L1. And then you basically have your focus. What they did is they put this lever right here. You can lever it down, and then you can just lower everything on your stock, and then you have the focus height that you need for this very laser with this frequency. Yeah, that's pretty nice. The only thing I'm a bit worried about, so while assembling the thing, I was worried about those axes getting out of sync because they were a bit wobbly, but when I installed the coupling that we had right here, everything worked out nicely, so everything's stable. That shouldn't be a problem. But what I'm worrying about is if I do quicker engravings, will it start to wobble rapidly? And this could, in some cases, I don't know, mess something up. We'll see about that. I'm not certain about the razors right here. I'm going to uninstall those for now because I don't need those. I'm only going to try out stock which fits in my area that we have down here. If you want to use the razors, you might also as well use a little table that you can put down here. But other than that, looks pretty cool. The whole structure is made out of aluminum, and also we have some plastic extrusions here, or injection molded plastic, really doesn't matter. But overall it's pretty stable. Even if I'm shearing, for this price tag it's totally fine and acceptable, at least in my book. We now try a bunch of things out, we'll see how it performs, and yeah, we are going to start off traditionally with just a tiny little bit of plywood, and they also conveniently delivered some pieces of plywood with the machine. So we are going to engrave those, and we are also going to try to cut this. This looks like 3 to 4 millimeters of plywood, so that we are on the same page already. This right here is 3 millimeters. So let's try and cut it. If it can cut through 3 millimeters, that's totally in the range of the performance of a 10-watt laser. Let's go ahead and get started. Well, color me surprised. I have never seen a honeycomb board that I was able to screw into the base of my laser. This is cool. I like that. I'm into that shit. That is awesome. What I also really like are those magnetic stops that you can put on the honeycomb board, and it's actually pretty stable due to the geometry of the honeycomb board. So you can put it here, and you have nice restrictions for your wood to go into, or your stock, whatever it may be. Just like this. That is cool. That is nice. I can appreciate that. That is cool. Now look at that. That looks really clean. For this price tag, I'm into that. I'm into that. Is the air assist? That's good. Now let's home it once again. Hiya, there we go. And then let us do our first project immediately. Alright, the engraving looks pretty damn good. I can't complain about that. Now let's take it off and... Oh! Whoa! Oh nice. Whoa, look at the bag. Like, that is clean as fuck. And that pops right out. That is cool, look at that. We also got the contrast between the two wood types here on my logo. You can also see the contours of the rest. That is cool. That is really, really cool. I seriously can't complain about that. That looks pretty damn solid. Nice. For 3mm wood, that is good. That is actually really good. For a 10-watt laser module, I'm already kind of convinced. I seriously can't complain about that. That is really, really damn cool. Nice performance. Now, what I have here is a spare piece of mahogany. It's obviously way harder than plywood that we have right here. So I'm going to try and engrave and cut this right here. We see how it performs on a real hardwood. And yeah, that seriously worked like a charm. That is cool, and it's really easy to handle. Like, everything worked fine. The tracing was good. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have anything to complain at this point. The only thing is it's not too damn fast when it comes to engraving. I mean, it's a small machine, it is belt driven, so it has its flaws, but for the price point, that is nice. Okay, let us see if it cut through. I mean, we can clearly see the engraving. I put a speed of 20,000 millimeters per minute this time around, and you can see that engraving was on the one hand faster, not twice as fast as the last one, so I think we've reached a limit of probably around 15,000 millimeters per minute. I'm not very certain about the specs. When it comes to the max speed, maybe it's somewhere here in an annotation. But you can clearly see that with the higher speed we don't have such a deep engraving, it's not this dark, but this comes totally natural because it's only a 10 watt engraving and laser module in general. So let's see if we can actually pop it out. I can already see the outline of the figure here and it seems to have come through. It's kind of a tight fit, but hey, we got it to work. I mean, that's all that we really need. I like that. That is cool. It worked out. Very nice. It cut through mahogany, and this right here, I would suppose it's also 3 millimeters thick. 3.5 millimeters. So it's even thicker than the plywood that we had before. Yeah, it's a tad bit thicker. So that is nice. It cut through the hardwood too. But now here's kind of a real challenge. This right here is Canary wood. It's extremely brittle, it's seriously hard, it's an annoying wood to deal with, and even my 40 watt laser engraver by IKEA just didn't make it through on this sample. So we are going to try, it's not the same rabbit, but it gets the point across. We're going to try to cut through it, we're going to engrave it and see how it performs. I'm going to take everything way slower this time, especially when it comes to the cutting. This right here is 5 millimeters thick, so that's very thick for a 10 watt laser engraver. Let's just see if it can deal with it. And if it can't, that's totally fine. It has its limit. Let's go. Well, shiver me tinders. Already after the first pass of the cutting, I noticed that I could see the blue light of the diode laser down here in the honeycomb pattern, which means it has cut through. I am seriously surprised. When I do reviews, I'm not manufacturing my surprises or anything of that sort, but this right here for a 10 watt laser. Could be that it's a new thing or something of that sort. It's a new machine or I don't know. But this right here is impressive. 0.5 centimeter thickness of Canary wood cut through. Wow, that is amazing. I did not believe that it could cut through that. I mean it when I say it. I thought the 3 millimeter to 4 millimeter mahogany was the maximum. Now, I'm wondering if it can cut ash too, or other hardwoods, like for example Amasakoi or the like. I'm going to give this some more shots over the weekend, and I'm going to tell you about the results then. Oh yeah, that is cool, that is cool. You're doing well, little one, you're doing well. Shh. Excuse the mess, I've been kind of busy working here, building a bunch more furniture. But over the weekend and the last few days, I was able to play around with this machine a bit more, and I grew really fond of it. I was able to do a little sign at home for a relative of my wife moving, so we used it, this laser engraver to get it done. That was cool, worked out very nicely with beech wood, so hardwood, but other than that you have probably seen in the other video that I was playing around with a little bit more with other hardwoods, and this is what I got. So this right here is ash, and it's ash from right at the very middle of a tree. This right here is the hardwood, so it's really hard. It's about 4 millimeters thick, and by doing 2 passes I was able to pass through just barely. So this is to be expected. Even my 40-watt lasers have a hard time getting through ash, and this is why I was kind of surprised once again that it got through. 1 pass through my drum center and I'm going to get it out here. See, I can already break it out pretty easily out of the rest of the wood. Yeah, there we go. Worked out. This is amazing, and it did a really good job. Looking quite tight. Looks good. After that, I was playing around with a 5 to 6 millimeter thick oak wood. This right here is white oak, and that was rather on the thick side of things, so quite a bit thicker than the ash wood that we got here. And I did it on 2 passes, and it only made it through on a few parts of the oak wood here, where it is even a bit thicker. It just didn't make it through entirely, so I should have done a 3rd pass. And this is exactly what I did, and I was able to finish up with this small laser right here, a product that I'm working on for my art market. It's just 3D printing combined with oak wood. Does look pretty good, right? And it did a pretty clean job. If you take a look at just everything here, looks nice. There are a few tolerances, but this can be fixed very easily with the version 2 of my clock that I have here. So it did a really good job. It passed through the oak and the thick ash wood. For a 10-watt laser, this is just awesome. I seriously can't complain. So I want to play around a tiny little bit more with this machine now. What I noticed, I didn't even notice this when unboxing, this right here is an infrared laser module. This is why it's only 1 watt. Meaning, what we can do here is we can engrave all kinds of metal, for example steel and aluminum and the like, without any problem. This is really cool. I didn't know that this was included. This is awesome. So I'm going to do this next. I'm going to try to engrave metal, and also I want to use this rotary module, and once I'm done with that I can give you a final verdict of this little machine right here, and can tell you what I learned in the last few days and if you should buy it or not. And also I got Slate here. This sadly fell down from my little shop that I have right in front of my house, my little booth. And this right here is the engraving by a 40-watt laser, and I want to see how this engraving compares to the 10-watt laser that we got here. So let's not waste any further time. Let's get to carving and cutting and see what we can come up with in the next round of testing. Let's go. I mean, yeah, it works. The picture is inverted. I did not tweak anything, and I just want to try it out, and it was just too high of a speed for the rotary and for the oak. But other than that, yeah, it looks good. It most definitely works. It's just a standard roller that you can just get in every store, be it X-Tool or IKEA or whatever. It does work out, so I'm satisfied with that, I suppose. This looks fabulous. Look at that. Very high detail. You can see the difference in colors. Yeah, it's wonderful. The text is extremely nicely visible and readable, and there's no overall difference in quality when you compare the 40-watt to the 10-watt. It's awesome. I like it. It does a really good job for what it is. When it comes to the diode laser, there is no visible engraving in this. I'm not fairly certain what it is. I would suppose that this right here is a small steel plate, but there's no engraving in the metal whatsoever. But if I'm not mistaken, if we use the infrared laser, has been ages since I have used one, and in a normal case I do not engrave metal. If you use the infrared laser with 1064 nanometers in wavelength, we should be able to engrave the metal. We'll give it a shot at least. Alright, perfect. Am I looking fresh? Am I looking fresh? For some reason, and this was kind of weird, the machine didn't register that there was a new laser module plugged into here for the first few seconds, but at some point it started working. I have no idea what happened. Maybe it just had to get started with everything, get warmed up a tiny little bit, but after that, that looks gorgeous. That is some fiber laser shit going on here. Look at that. Can you see that? Let me see if I can focus it nicely. Engraved on metal, and with an infrared laser you can, just like with a fiber laser, do all kinds of metals, be it brass, aluminum, steel. It just works wonderfully, and it did so very nicely. Obviously it's just scoring the wood. There's nothing that you can feel. It just feels very smooth, just like the regular metal. I just like the look of it. With a diode laser you could actually also engrave metal with a bit of fiddling around, and this also in different colors depending on the wavelength that you have right now. But other than that, this I think concludes all of the tests that I wanted to do. I did a lot of things with this tiny little laser here, and I would love to tell you my final opinion about it now. The Carverall laser engraver and cutter is, up until this point, I think the most inexpensive laser machine that I have ever tried out. I digged into the website once again, and this little machine, which is extremely lightweight, easy to set up, is especially fast to set up no matter where you are right now, be it going to an art market or just going to a relative's house and showing them your laser, comes at a price tag of 226 euros, which is around $250, which is, for the area that you have, the laser module and also the infrared laser module that you are going to get extra, a totally fair price. And the best thing is, if you go onto their website now, and this is nothing where I earn any money or anything of that sort, you can get yourself a 10% off coupon by just registering for their newsletter, which is cool. So you get this machine for around about $220 or 200 euros overall, which is, in my opinion, it's a steal. It works accurately, the laser modules work out fine. Once you get the infrared module running, it also works perfectly fine, as you were able to see here. Now there's not much I could say negatively about this machine. Most of the stuff is just a tiny bit nitpicky. At first I had my doubts that this would work out without wiggling, but by installing this bar right here, it was able to just stay really stiff for what it's supposed to do. There's no wiggle room or anything of that sort. It works accurately. Other than that, the only negative thing I could really say is that this infrared module took a while to get started, and even though it's really cool that you can screw the honeycomb pattern into the space down here, once you want to use the roller or you want to engrave something which is a tiny little bit higher, you have to unscrew the honeycomb board and just screw those in, those razors. To their defense, you could use the razors and screw the honeycomb pattern into the razors too, but it just takes a bit of time to get set up. So if you are on an art market and you are in a hurry, I wouldn't recommend engraving anything that has a circular shape or the like, or a cylindrical shape. But other than that, those were my only complaints. It's easy and quick to set up. It's a lightweight machine. You can just take it anywhere. It works wonderfully. The laser modules that come with the machine do their job perfectly fine, and even more than they should be capable of for a 10-watt machine, if I may say so myself. I was honestly surprised about what it could cut at this capacity. And other than that, it just looks fine. It looks really good. It's pretty well built for the price and for the price tag that I have mentioned before. It's just a real steal, and you should check it out by using down there any link that they have sent me that I should put down there in the description. I'm not earning any money from it. I'm not certain if I can take part in any affiliate program, but if I do so, you will see down there in the description. And if you decide to buy any of their machines, that I'm going to get a little cut of the cake. So do not worry, you're not going to pay extra. The most you could do is support my channel passively. But if you want to get started into the laser business, you should get this machine. It's not something that you would use regularly when doing a lot of laser work that you want to sell, because it's not the fastest machine overall. Obviously, it's just $200 basically, but it gets the job done in a hobbyist kind of fashion, and I can appreciate this. because lasers like this are the reason why I could get started into woodworking and all the things that I'm doing right now. And if you also want to get started with this stuff, it's a perfect starting point to get yourself a small, inexpensive laser that actually can get the job done. And this is my final conclusion, 6 out of 9. No, there's no real scale here. But if I could recommend anything, this right here is a good, inexpensive machine for beginners in the hobbyist space. Or just someone who wants to get started with lasers. And I hope you did enjoy my review, and I tried to make it as thorough and complete as I could possibly do. If you have more questions, leave some comments down there below, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Have a flamboyant day. See ya!